happy Wednesday to you. Thank you for tuning in to the Gabriel Speaks podcast. So glad you are here. We're happy to have you. This is a UFO news update show. As you know, I do these quite often, and there have been a few recent UFO news, UAP news, whatever you want to call it, updates that have gone down this last week that I haven't quite covered yet. So I figured I better play some catch up because I must turd. I'm sorry. That's an oldie but goodie. Okay, so I'm going to run a clip here. This is our most recent UFO news. We're going to talk about a few things. Please make sure to hit like and subscribe. That really helps the algo, as they say. But we're going to cover Obama coming out. I'm sure you've already heard this, saying that there's aliens. We're going to talk, and then has walked it back already. And then we're going to talk about a new McGonagle's interview on that UFO podcast, which I think was great. And there's also been some new insight from the directors and writers of Dark Skies, which I found really fascinating, but the news kind of just flew under the radar for the most part. So I wanted to bring some attention to that because I thought that was really interesting. And then something you've probably heard before that I haven't heard yet is this group called the Nine and their attempts to channel. And in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, what they say were successful attempts at channeling communication with extraterrestrials. Pretty fascinating stuff. And there's even some recordings you can download out there for free. I'll get you some links. It's pretty cool. And we're going to share a bit of one. But there's lots of these for apps. They're out there to get absolutely free to download. So you can listen to the message that these folks say are coming from these extraterrestrials that they've channeled. It's pretty fascinating stuff. All right, so we're going to get started with the news reel, if you will, and then we'll jump in and get into it.
Aliens real?
They're real, but I haven't seen them, and they're not being kept in what is it?
Area 51.
Area 51. There's no underground facility, unless there's this enormous conspiracy, and they hid it from the President of the United States.
Here on the campus of Montana Tech, you can study science, mathematics, engineering, biology, even nursing. But here in the chemistry biology building, in this classroom, you can learn about UFOs. Yeah, I'm serious, and so is Dr. Michael Masters.
Fiber optics technology may have come from reverse engineering these craft.
The anthropology class studies the history and science behind the UFO phenomenon.
This is a real phenomenon happening. Whether you believe in UFOs or not, it's not a belief system anymore. It's an evidence-based inquiry.
Essentially, these craft are harnessing a ridiculous amount of energy in a localized area, and they're creating a bubble around the craft.
Yeah, so
a bubble that's warping space-time around the craft. All the laws of physics that govern, aviation
and our reality.
Yeah, and like our
Winds,
understanding of how
anything else,
aircraft work don't apply, right?
And so we both looked up, and there was this really bright light focused on us from about 600 feet up. It's like a cone of light. And above it was this monstrous a vehicle of some kind. It wasn't perfectly round, it was oblique. And you could see panel lines in it, everything, and it was slowly rotating. And we we were just kind of staring at that light for maybe 6 or 8 seconds. And the light winked out. And just about the time it came into focus, it vanished. We didn't tell anybody. I walked down to my buddy's quarters, Roberts, and he wasn't there. His door was standing open. So I asked the man across from him, I said, where's Steve? And he said, oh, he went out of here at 4 in the morning in an ambulance. They took him to the airstrip and flew him to Florida, to a hospital in Florida.
For me, I had my own personal inciting incident when I was 18, when a member of the Raegan administration disclosed to me that aliens are real and they're here and that he'd seen them. Imagine if you were 18, right? Just a teenager, like minding your own business, and somebody that was a trusted family friend that you'd known for years disclosed that to you. Obviously, even at the time that this happened to me when I was 18, my brain couldn't process it, right? Yeah. I'm like, what do you do with that information?
Yeah, what do you do with that information? I thought it was interesting, of all the interviews I was going through, catching up on my UFO news, because I've been so swamped with this stupid Epstein shit. That was one of the interviews that I thought, wow, I can't believe no one's talking about this. Mr. Friedman is saying when he was 18 years old, he's hanging out with, he's in a pretty prominent family and he's at this pretty prominent party. And this member of the Raegan administration essentially discloses to him, a young 18-year-old man, that, hey, dude, guess what? I got a little surprise for you. Aliens are real. And I've seen the bodies. Wild stuff. And Mr. Friedman has been kind of in and out of the UFO community here and there. Dark Skies, great television show. He's a big part of that show's success. So very, very interesting experience. I encourage you to go seek out that interview and check it out, because Raegan, that administration, it kind of reminds me a lot of the current administration that we have. A lot of similarities between the two. So I think it's pretty fascinating. You have this guy coming out after all this time. He's managed to kind of keep that close to his chest for the most part. But to finally come out and say, yeah, man, they told me when I was pretty young that this was real, that, at least a portion of it is real and not pretend. So, Trace, yeah, I see you. What's happening, buddy? Glad you're with us. Always love having Tracy join. Tracy's always dropping really good information. Super sensible. Thank you so much for hanging out. We're glad to have you. Okay, so let's kind of go through these topics one by one, shall we? Let's start with Mr. Obama. Mr. Obama comes out on this podcast, goes, aliens are real. I mean, I haven't seen them. And but they're not at Area 51. And apparently no one's really briefed him on it. And then after he makes this statement, very quickly comes and walks back that statement and says, well, it's not even that. It's just that, he uses the old, what's that mathematical equation where they say, oh, it's the solar system's just too big. There's no way there could be just us on it or in it. And so, yeah, in looking at things from that perspective, yeah, aliens are real. Well, that's not quite the same as like the president saying aliens are real, right? Very quick that walk back almost took all of the gas out of that interview, because we had a president who he said before on air, I remember, because I was watching it, him say that, oh, there's just things I can't discuss as president. But there are things flying in the sky that we can't explain. You know, he said that when he was president. So really, I think kind of a nothing burger. I don't know if he was just trying to distract from the headline of Epstein that had been going on for the last 2 weeks, or if it was a genuine answer. And then he was told, hey, you better walk that back. Who knows? But he essentially implied that, you know, there was no program he was made aware of. If there was a program going on, that they were hiding it from the President of the United States, which we've heard other people say, like Marco Rubio, I think, said that in that stupid documentary. So very interesting. And I think that at the end of the day, if you are president, you've either gotten the full briefing or the partial briefing, but you are made aware that there is some other form of life, whether it's interdimensional or intergalactic. I think you are made aware that there is this other form of life, this non-human intelligence that exists. They probably give them some of the theories, and they either, probably with the full briefing, they give them all the facts they have, and with the not full briefing, they just kind of give them some theories of what it could be, which is why I think like Luna and the other guy, not Burchett, but Burleson, I think those two have gotten like the partial briefing, because they will talk about angels and demons and things like that. And I feel like that is just a part of it. I don't think that's the full story. I think maybe that's how to explain it to folks that are having a hard time getting their head around what's actually happening. You saw me highlight Michael Masters' class. There's 2 reasons I do this. Couple reasons. One is that I think it's fantastic that in Montana you can sign up for a UFO class. You can actually sign up for and get credit for studying UFO and UAP phenomena, research, whatever you want to call it. At this point, there's been enough scientific papers on the matter and enough credible scientists that have come out and spoken on the matter that it can be taken seriously. And I think it's great that there's an actual class being offered at Montana, and I hope there's more of them down the road where they're going to be offering actual credit towards your bachelor in science or associates in science or masters, doctorates, whatever you're working towards. An actual accredited class that you can take on this study. So I'm excited to see that, which is why I highlighted it to start out with. The second reason I want to highlight it is that I've had Eric on this show, Eric Mitchell. I'm sorry, I just got a beep on my watch about my low blood sugar. This always happens when I get worked up. So I've had Eric Mitchell on my show, and Eric Mitchell is the gentleman that Mr. Masters had his telepathic experience with. There were, he talks about 3 folks being there, and Eric Mitchell was one of those folks that was communicating to him on the balcony about his experience. Now, Eric is a awesome awesome guy. I consider him a good friend. I consider him a genuine person, the real deal Holyfield, if you don't mind me saying. And I don't have a problem if, let's say, the community at large decides, we don't really want to listen to what Eric has to say. It's like, okay, that's the community deciding they don't want to listen to what Eric has to say, and I can deal with that. Hey, that's fine. But what I don't like, and I don't know why I have this pink scratcher in my hand tonight, but I do. What I don't like is people being erased. Eric Mitchell had a YouTube channel, Experiencer 1111. He had a lot of interviews on there. He had interviews even with Dr. Masters. This is Eric Mitchell's YouTube channel at the current moment. This is what you get when you go to his page. Eric doesn't know why his page was taken down. He has disputed it and essentially received 0 response. And there's no explanation. No, hey, you violated the terms of service, or you had copyrighted stuff on your channel, or whatever explanation you could give for completely taking down a channel. But this is what you see now when you go to his channel. And it has now been several weeks, and he's gotten nowhere. I mean, he's gotten absolutely nowhere. He's getting, as far as I can understand it, not much help on this matter either. And I'm not going to name any names, but when I bring this up, I feel like I'm being told to not even bring it up, to kind of shut up about it, that Eric's a good guy, but, you know, Dr. Masters is the guy that is accredited and this and that and the other, and that's why he'll get all the attention. And I'm okay with that. I think Dr. Masters is a great guy. I haven't met him, but he seems like a very genuine, down-to-earth person. And I think he's a great person. I'm not complaining about the success that Dr. Masters is experiencing. What I'm complaining about is someone getting erased from the story altogether. Why is someone that's that critical in a story that garners tons of interest, why are they being erased? We have to ask this question. This isn't like, oh, they're being targeted and they're not getting as many hits on their videos as Dr. Masters. And we're going to point that out here in a second too. This is flat out your YouTube channel was removed. Your social media accounts are under threat of being removed. And what have you done other than share your experience and have an experience with someone that's gaining a lot of popularity? So this is Michael Masters on YouTube, and you see just from these 6 videos, okay, over 3 million views on just those 6 videos, and a critical story. And every one of those videos is his experience with Eric. Meanwhile, Eric on YouTube, you can take 6 of his more popular videos, and it doesn't even total 17,000 views. That's beyond an algorithm manipulation, folks. Someone is trying to bury and hide this person. He doesn't fit the narrative. And I strongly believe in this statement that you're seeing right here, which is when it comes to this UFO, UAP narrative, what's happening with academia as it moves over to academia, more to academia, they are going to silence the ones that are messy. They're going to tell the ones that don't play by the rules, that don't behave, they're going to silence them. And if they can't fit neatly into some box, footnoted, controlled, or even influenced, because they have strong will, they're going to be erased, just like my friend Eric. They are wanting to protect the narrative at all costs. Hours and hours of hard work and effort went in to Eric's channel. And this is what you see now. His heart and his soul. Now, I'm not saying he's not going to get through this. He's going to figure out a way. We're going to figure out a way. I'll help him if he needs it, to redistribute this stuff, to get it on a platform where he can't be disappeared, essentially. But I think it's sad that on this platform, he's been disappeared with no explanation.
You can study science.
So it's great. I think it's fantastic that this class is going on at Montana. And I wish Michael Masters all of the best. As I said, I think he's an amazing, genuine person who's had some really, really exciting experiences to share. And he's been honest about them. And I think that's really cool that he's done that. Like, a lot of people don't have to open that door and let us in. And Professor Masters has done that. So, again, it's not about, oh, look at how much more attention he's getting. It's the fact that while that's happening, my friend Eric is being erased. What is that about? What is that about? It's concerning. Now, Dan Farah, the documentary Age of Disclosure came out. And what he's been talking about a lot is the actual science behind the propulsion technology. So he got to do a lot of interview time. I'm sorry, y'all. He got to do a lot of interview time with, gentlemen like Hal Puthoff, Eric Davis, Jay Stratton, so on and so forth. And these gentlemen, throughout his documentary and for the last several years, have been talking about this alternative form of propulsion. What Mr. Farah seems to be excited about is that he feels like they have made kind of a breakthrough because these folks have agreed on what some of this technology may be. The main one is the bubble claim. Okay, so they describe UAP as operating inside a localized warp bubble, or a space-time bubble. Basically, a field envelope that separates the craft from the surrounding environment. So outside of the medium, whatever's there, air, water, fire, it doesn't matter because this is a bubble that's completely separate from that. And that's why it can move in these, what seem to us to be insane directions and directional changes, because to them, they're not moving fast like that. It's just how we comprehend it. So it's transmedium travel without any drag. Air, water, space, because it's not pushing through the resistance, right? Whatever it is, whether it's fluid or air or whatever. The bubble is the interface. No crushing G-forces for the occupants, because inside the bubble, the conditions are different. So extreme acceleration from the outside doesn't translate to acceleration that you even feel on the inside. And time behaves differently inside versus outside of that bubble. And this could explain a lot of things. Like this could explain why UFOs, UAPs seem to have that sort of hazy look. This could explain when folks talk about interactions, they talk about time loss. It's very interesting. So the bubble that they talk about not only is the means of propulsion, but could be travel through time, possibly. Something where, we look at the size of the solar system and we go, there's just no way getting from Earth to wherever that planet is, even going at the fastest speed that we can calculate, which we still haven't figured out how to get there, it would take hundreds of years or thousands of years or whatever it is. But what if there's a way to kind of use a cheat code? Essentially kind of a little warp, little bubble, time and space between one location and really any location that you could chart out. So really fascinating to think about. And I think, again, you have all of these guys that have been researching this for decades, all agreeing, for the most part, on a big part of the science. So bubble technology, look out for it, pay attention. It could explain some of the UFO or UAP that we're seeing in the skies. And this is on the Jack Osborne podcast, by the way, which I guess is called Trying Not to Die, which I had no idea. It's one heck of a name for a podcast, I suppose. But yes, make sure to go check that one out. Now, McGonagle's, this was on that UFO podcast. And I cut out just a very small snippet of that interview, which was actually his part of his experience. Because on top of everything else that he has been a part of, I mean, we know about remote viewing, we know about Stargate, we've heard all kinds of very, very interesting stories about McGonagle's career. Did you know he also saw a UFO? Him and his buddy had gone out drinking one night. Started heading home around 1 a.m. They're walking between these two sand dunes. And this giant craft just appears above them. And I thought it was interesting. He said, you know, all these UFO witnesses, they always say there's no rivets, there's no panels, there's no nothing. It's just this completely smooth body. But McGonagall made it a point in this interview to say, oh, there was like rivets and, it, you know, essentially kind of implying that it was created maybe by man or something else that uses tools like man. This ties in, I think, with our reverse engineered stuff. So I do, like Dr. Stephen Greer has proposed, I think we have some stuff that's reverse engineered, and it looks like the alien stuff or the NHI stuff, whatever you want to call it. And so to us, we can't tell the difference. When I was a preteen laying on a hill, I was going to say a mountain, it was a little hill, laying on a hill and saw that triangle craft above me in the early 90s, I had never, ever seen anything like that in my entire life. And as far as I was concerned, I needed to speak with Agent Mulder. And it turns out it might have just been some Raytheon classified drone. Back when we never even heard the word drone. They're always 20 to 40 years ahead of us. And sometimes that can be scary to think about. Because then you wonder, like, holy shit, when Livelsberger blew up his Tesla in front of Trump Tower and he said that these Chinese drones have the ability to do this, to immediately drop a payload. No transportation required. Just show up, boom, unlimited payload. That it was game, set, match. It was checkmate on the United States. And nobody was listening. And so he tried to make a spectacle, even using his own life to get people to listen. And only us crazy conspiracy theorists gave it the time of day. And you can go back. You can look at my Livelsberger episode. It's months back when it happened. I mean, it was like a day or two after the FBI was asking Sean Ryan about it. So it's just crazy how the mainstream doesn't even cover this stuff. Is that going to change after these Epstein files? I don't know. Not a topic I'm going to get back into. So McGonagall has this shared experience with his battle buddy. The next morning, he wakes up, he goes down, he wants to see his buddy, see how he's doing, because they're not feeling well. He's gone. The guy is gone, never hears from him again. All he hears is that the guy is sick and that he's been transported. And so, yeah, you better believe he decided to not complain too much about it afterwards. And he actually says he went to sick call and he started writing down what happened. And one of the doctors there saw what he was writing and took it out of his hand and said, "Don't write that." And essentially explained to them that he's dealing with radiation burns and gave him treatment for radiation burns. And oh, guess what? He got better. So it could very well be McGonagall had an experience with a man-made craft, shooting off whatever this radiation is. We know that so many experiencers get sick, and we believe it's radiation, but it's like they're playing this game with what it actually is. Well, there's injuries. What are they? What causes them? What's happening to these people? What are we doing about it? I mean, how messed up would it be if these are just our pieces of equipment causing damage and harm to these people and these soldiers? And it's just an acceptable loss our government is willing to take. It's like all the people downwind of the nuclear fallout, right? Look, we love John Wayne, but we got to test these nukes somewhere. Ay, ay, ay. So Dan Friedman, you saw it, was on a podcast and was talking about, what's interesting is that the podcast was a lot about like creativity. They're both in TV. They're talking about writing scripts, being creative, things of that nature. They get into the show Dark Skies, and this comes up. And Mr. Friedman shares when he was 18, a very close friend of the family. This wasn't like someone just showed up at a party they'd never met before and said he worked for the Raegan campaign and the aliens were real. This was a close member of the family. So he'd known this guy since he could walk, essentially. And this gentleman tells him he's working for the Raegan administration. Oh, by the way, aliens are real. We have the bodies. So this is a great podcast. He talks about the kind of ontological shock he went through, how he learned to channel that energy once he kind of got through it, and what he's doing now. So I highly suggest just search in, just type in Friedman UFO in YouTube and you'll find it. I'll see if I can find the link to the full interview and put it in the show notes here, because I think that's important for some of us that, you know, if you have an experience, the more folks you can watch, talk to, or share with you the experience they went through and how they got through it, I think the more helpful it can be. Another reason, I think, the fact that they're trying to erase Eric Mitchell is absolutely crazy. This guy has helped hundreds, if not thousands, of experiencers cope and deal with what they're going through. It's absolutely crazy to me that this is happening. Meanwhile, the other one's getting catapulted to success. It's very, very, very interesting. Now, I played this a few episodes ago, but I think given the recent developments, I think this is more relevant than ever. This was Ron James in a space. That's right, producer Ron James in an X space a few weeks back talking about this disclosure movement. And I think, again, this is just a very, very interesting take on things.
A very rare thing. There's probably very very few people on this planet that know the entire story of what happened from biblical times through the modern era, the UFO, the crashes of the 40s till now. And if there were people, they're dead. They're dead. So, this isn't like there's some major group that knows all this stuff. And all these people that are filtering around, I wouldn't have believed what I'm saying right now, except I overheard at this Alien Con backstage thing, Jay Stratton and Gary Nolan and God, it was the All Stars, and they're all standing around just talking amongst themselves, and I'm sitting in a chair behind them, and they're asking questions of each other and making like assumptions and postulations that told me that they clearly do not know, and I was blown away. I was like, "Ooh, what am I going to hear?" And I heard a bunch of people that are trying to figure it out, and it shocked me because they're
Talk about ontological shock, right? Here's the guys sitting at the top. They're supposed to have the answers, at least some of them. And they're asking more questions than they are providing answers. Yeah, that would be intense.
supposed to be the people that know. Well, look, if you look back to the 50s when, people don't really remember the history of this movement, but the UFO topic was as hot now, if not hotter, back in the 50s when we had Sanford, we had the Robertson panel. What we've seen since 2017 is literally a repeat performance of the same script. And the knowledge that was available then is pretty much the same knowledge that's available now. It's the same speculation. It's the same theories. It's the same everything. And that's because, these guys, they're going to hold this stuff as long as they can for a variety of reasons. And in Accidental Truth Next, it's called Beyond UFO Disclosure because about 20 minutes into the movie, I put a scene of a broken record because I'm just sick of watching these guys in Washington spin around and waste our time.
Yeah, I mean, Ron James, a guy that's been going at it for a while, trying to get answers. I can only imagine you get to a point where you get frustrated. You're like, just show me the stuff. Can we stop talking about theories? Can we stop talking about what ifs? Show me. I totally get that frustration. 100%.
We're only going to get so far. And so what we do after that in the film is we start looking at how this fits into everything from biblical teachings to the nature of reality itself. And that's where the answers to this truly lie. And when they say we're not ready, we might not be ready. This film's everybody's making these movies about UFO disclosure. It's great. I've made 3 myself, but this movie is the first movie I Accidental Truth moved the needle, and this one's moving the needle into what we really need to be talking about. Starting because we're at a point in human history where these things are not going to be able to be swept under the rug like they used to be.
Yeah, and that's what happened, right? Pre-internet, when network TV owned the waves, the airwaves, network radio owned the airwaves, they had the ability to completely control the message. That's what we saw after Roswell, right? Literally a paper prints, UFO, flying saucer caught. But the apparatus managed to completely erase that one day later. Completely reversed everything and erased any indication that it was ever a UFO to begin with. And it wasn't until 20, 30, 40 years later people started talking about Roswell. It's amazing. Think of most of the crash sites, the popular crash sites in the lore, a lot of those are more than likely legitimate. I'm not saying a UFO crashed there, but something took place, whether it was a UFO, a paranormal event, some type of energy field event, interdimensional event, something took place. Yes, I'm continuing to use my back scratcher as a pointer. Okay, now this is really interesting. So I talked about that study, the 9, and channeling UFO extraterrestrials. So there was this group ages ago in the 40s. We're talking the DuPonts, Forbes, Astors, other powerful names. Not so much household names at that point, but powerful names, controlling a big chunk of the money and the power. Along with several others involved with these groups, formed 9 of them all together. They went to a seance. Well, they ended up going to multiple seances. And there was a time when like a seance, reading from a psychic medium, stuff like that was almost like entertainment. I mean, you would pay to go watch this stuff. We didn't have no TV. We didn't have no cell phones. I mean, yeah, I'll pay a nickel to go watch a psychic medium talk to a ghost. Why not? This is the times we were living in. So this group forms, and they actually have an interaction with a UFO. Now, this particular interaction was recorded. However, the tape has not been found or presented since. We know it was recorded. There's documentation that it was recorded. There's a lot of YouTube videos that will say this is it, and then it's not it. So my theory is there is a hard copy of this interview where they channeled a UFO. But it's in some library, at some university, buried in some box. And it's just going to have to get unearthed one day, like the McDonald file at Arizona State. Like, oh, what's this? Now, what do we have? We have the group that continued the research. They didn't stop after that. They kept on. They wanted to know where this was going to go. Channeling UFOs, talking to alien species. Now, this practice began in the late 50s. And what we're about to listen to, this tape, was released in the early 70s. There are multiple tapes like this. It is absolutely fascinating. Now, we're, of course, not going to spend the time to go through 6 hours of tape. But what I did was, this particular tape is about UFO and human contact specifically. So if you take what these people are saying as literal, that they are having an experience with an extraterrestrial species that is literally using them to give this message to us, the human race. Is that what it is? How could I possibly prove that? How could anyone? But I challenge you to listen to the video. Listen to the audio and think about, just consider for just 1/2 of a microsecond. What if it's true? What if these people are telling the truth and communicating with extraterrestrial species?
The beginning of a typical communication allegedly originating from UFO entities and channeled through a contactee. The contactees whose recorded messages we are using on this tape are all members of various groups throughout the United States who claim to receive the messages telepathically, so that we are hearing the voice of the contactee relaying the thoughts sent by the UFOnauts. Each tape was made at an actual meeting and has not been changed or edited. This accounts for the typically slow delivery of the messages and also for any imperfections in the tape. Perhaps the first question we would ask them is, who are they and why are they here? Here's a sample of answers to that question from 3 different contactees.
I and my brothers, who are visiting your planet at this time, are not strangers to this planet. Our people have had the planet Earth under surveillance for a long, long time. And we are here at this time to render a service to the people of Earth. I and my brothers are here to attempt to teach our Earth brothers love and understanding. This may seem strange to most of you. However, the planet Earth has had many, many years, many generations, many centuries, in which to learn love and understanding. I am quite sure there are many who are seeking love and understanding, a new way of life, because they have begun to think for themselves. They know deep within their very being that the way that the people of Earth are living at present, they know that there is much to be desired in this way of life. We are here through guidance and suggestion to bring truth as we understand it to your peoples.
You see, my friends, we of the Confederation of Planets need you just as you need us. In our reality, someone to love and cherish and help and inspire is as necessary to us as is food and drink to you. To us, those whom we have found to be serious students of the path of the Creator, are as delicious as your meat and drink is to you. For you are the means whereby we can enlarge our own horizons of understanding. You are the means whereby we can learn more and more about the disciplines and the interrelationships of what you may call the genetic personality. We study the Creator's arrangement of articulated love, which is manifested forth in His perfect beings. And as we see you dwelling in your heavy chemical illusion, fighting so valiantly to understand and to deal with the intense emotions of that vibration, we are able to gain new depth of insight into the plan of the Father. We know that there is a plan, but its beginning and its end are shrouded in mystery even for us. We know only that it is circular, and that when we are fully at one with the knowledge that we seek, there will be no time, space, or emptiness. And our own personalities will again become part of that one universal thought of love which created all that there is. We know that then we will be sent forth again the beginnings of new universes and new cycles of growth. But there are many things about this plan which is infinite, about which we do not yet know. And it is in helping those upon your planet to whom we speak that we learn by the interaction between us more and more about the basic genetic personality that is common to all of us. We, of course, as we have said many times, have learned what we can in your illusion. We are now in another illusion, an illusion in which we can create by thought that which we need, in which we can see each other as vibration, in which we can speak telepathically, and in which we can travel in time.
My friends, as I have said, you are divine. Know this at all times. recognize and learn to see the divinity within those around you, and know that that divinity is within all beings. No matter who you come across in your life, whether they be what you would call criminal, evil, or good, they are divine. They are either fulfilling that which they have chosen to do, or they shall do so in the future. Know that each person progresses at their own rate. Know that each person has that right to choose in what direction to go. Give whatever assistance that you can to those that would request it. Give whatever assistance to those who would not request it, that you know would not be violating their will. And my friends, the artist that it is for those truly dedicated to do, is to render no assistance to those that they know would not accept it. For to share your energies with those that would rebuke it is to waste, shall we say, precious time and precious energies. All that you can do for those is to love them and bless them and allow them to go their way.
This theme of the supreme importance of free will and the right of each person to choose for himself is very central to the UFO messages.
We ask only that you listen. Take that which is of importance to you and use it well. And that which you find somewhat disagreeable, either accepted trains of thought. We ask that you dispel that from your consciousness, if you so desire. We claim not to know all that there is to know within the universe. For to the best of our knowledge, the universe is infinite, and the experiences and the knowledge within it must therefore be the same. However, we do claim to have progressed to very similar circumstances as what you experience now. And we offer what we feel to be the greatest degree of assistance that we can presently render to your people. We have spoken through many peoples upon your planet, such as you are witnessing now. Many of your peoples have grown aware of us, and it is pleasing to see that a few more have come to listen. And we humbly and gratefully respect your presence.
But just what knowledge is it that they have come to share with Earth? It is, they say, a simple teaching, a teaching of love.
And above all, my friend, see those about you in their true form. Realize that each one that you come in contact with is actually the Creator. We are all parts of the one great Creator. How can you have less love for those about you than you would have for your Creator. As I have explained many times before, when I speak of love, I'm speaking of love in its universal sense. A more spiritual love, a higher love than people of earth usually associate with this word. Not a possessive love, my friends. A love which would give freedom to those who are loved. Freedom to express themselves as they see fit. And a love which would enable you to understand them regardless of how they express themselves. The joy, the beauty of living in this type of love far surpasses anything which can be experienced in the present way of life upon this planet. It is such a feeling of satisfaction, of peace, of beauty, that it is not possible to express this feeling or describe it to you with mere words. I can only ask you to trust that what I am speaking is truth. And as you seek, as you grow, as your unfoldment progresses, you will become aware of what I am speaking of.
This perfect love, they say, is what created all that there is, and therefore we are all basically the same one, linked by the common spark of love that makes us all one, regardless of our differences.
This evening I would tell you a story about a man who was not an ordinary man, but rather a very uncommon one. For within him from childhood was the burning desire to know the love of the Creator. In his youth, this man read widely, feeling extremely frustrated because no one could speak with him deeply enough on the subjects in which he was interested. He found theology a great puzzle, a great confusion of ideas, and wending his way through it was something he did with a burning desire to know the love of the Creator. He did not find it in his books, but he pressed on. He went into what you would call a seminary. And when he graduated, he became a minister, preaching the word of the Creator to his flock. Through the years he listened with patience to the many problems of those who came to his church, drawn by the brilliance of his reasoning and the eloquence of his preaching. And yet he did not find the love of the Creator. In time, he met and married a woman who gave him children. He spent very little time with them because of his duties, but was loved greatly. And supported tremendously in his work by a wife who understood much and gave of herself unstintingly in his behalf. Nor yet did he find the love of the Creator that he sought. And one day, as he walked down the path from the rectory to his church, he met a boy that reminded him of himself at a younger age. For now, you see, he was quite old. And falling into conversation with the young man, they continued on to the rectory, and he continued his conversation. All of a sudden, something occurred that had never yet occurred in the old man's life. In this stranger's unlined face and burning desire to know the love of the Creator, the old man saw a person to love. And at the moment at which he gave his heart to this young man, as a father to a son, he felt the love of God. This wanderer was never seen by the old man again, for he was on his own journey. But the old man fell in love, first with one person, and finally with all mankind. What had blocked the love of the Creator that he so earnestly sought for a lifetime. We say to you, my friends, that you must love yourself. Not because your personality has any virtue, or because your ego, as you call it, needs shoring up by means of a self-indulgent love. No, my friends. We are speaking of a love that is one with the Creator. Where is the Creator, my friends? Can you touch Him? Can you see Him? In your century, those things which are not seen are not understood. Yet so it has been always. Had you all been blind, you would have thought very differently. But we ask you, my friends, where is the Creator? Is He outside of the world as you know it? Is He unknowable in any way? If so, why would we seek to find Him? My friends, the Creator is in your brothers and your sisters and yourself, closer to you than your breath, more available to you than reasoning, more heartening to you than your dreams, is that which is beyond one with.
Wow. Crazy stuff, right? This goes on for quite a bit, and there's more recordings as well. And when I listen, some of the folks, I'm like, yeah, I can see that, I suppose. The last person, it's like, what's your point? I hate to sound like a dick, but it's like, okay, love, and what? Like, what are you? Very, very confusing. But again, this is folks that were quote unquote channeling with extraterrestrial species. And it's my belief, just like anything else, any other type of communication out there that's not direct can be manipulated and messed with. Meaning, if I send a walkie-talkie communication to Bob across the street, someone could very easily get between us with something and deflect, ruin, flat out cut off that communication. So it's possible, I think, that while they're doing this telepathy, this channeling of this NHI, whatever it may be, I think you're also at risk of maybe that happening. Maybe something coming in, interfering, intercepting the signal, changing the message, changing the meaning. All things, I think, we always hope for the best. But I like to throw out there what could be the worst, because we do have to consider the worst. If we're going to hope for the best, we have to consider what could be the worst. So, the worst could be this was intercepted somehow, the message was, and then interpreted in some weird way that didn't make sense. What we're hearing here is a lot of love and light. It's almost like a mixture between like Christianity and spiritualism. It's very interesting. And this was in the 70s. So we know, right after the 60s, this was kind of a big thing, a big push. Was this just part of that? Or were these folks really communicating with aliens?
Go into meditation with a free heart, not with a free mind. Let your mind do what it wishes. You are not concerned with your mind. Let it tie itself in knots. It does not concern you. It is a tool. It is not you. Shrug it off. Let it be unimportant. We offer you these foolish sentences in the hope that you will see what is behind them. Our desire to hold our hands out to you, our brothers and sisters. For we stand in realms where these things are apparent, where love is enjoyed and shared, where the intellect is understood and not overemphasized. Indeed, we may say your intellect is by far greater than ours. For we know what we know by a process of direct intuition. We share one great body of knowledge among us, and nothing is forgotten.
It's crazy. You know what that reminds me of is like that show Pluribus. Right? Like one consciousness where nothing is lost because they're all connected in that way. Fascinating stuff. But yeah, I guess, that's one way where you would never have to worry about losing research. You would never have to worry about the person not writing down that one last equation they forgot to write down because you know it. Right? You're in each other's heads. You know all the answers that you need to access. So that's crazy. Definitely. And again, this was the 70s. Very fascinating.
Thus, we need not the tree of intellect. There is a place you can go in meditation that is a better place, my friends. A place in which you can be clean and fresh, new, just born, and free. We invite you to join us, for in meditation you are in a great company of all those in the higher planes
The UFO entities repeatedly caution us to be patient as we try to learn the new way of thinking that love and inner listening can teach us.
I should like to tell you that one thing to remember when you are new at seeking and learning is to be patient. Patience is very important, my friends. You can only receive information and answers to your questions as you are ready to understand them, and as your background of knowledge gradually grows, you are then ready for a little deeper understanding. Remember also not to be too hasty in forming opinions or in your judgments. I should like to tell you that one thing to remember when you are new at seeking and learning is to be patient. Patience is very important.
Yeah, you said that. Let's see. I don't know why it did that. I did say there.
Easily in areas where there are extensive underground openings.
Here we go. Okay, hang on. Okay, we do get into some underground stuff here.
It is only when you have a limited amount of information and knowledge that is easy to misunderstand and jump to conclusions, shall we say.
A frequently recurring UFO theme
understand them, and as your background of knowledge gradually grows, you are then ready for a little deeper understanding. Remember also not to be too hasty in forming opinions or in your judgments. I should like to tell you that one thing to remember when you are new at seeking and learning
Okay, I think this might have done it. Let's see.
it is only when you have a limited amount of information and knowledge that is easy to misunderstand and jump to conclusions, shall we say.
A frequently recurring UFO theme is that a cycle or change is soon to come, or even now occurring on Earth. This prediction is echoed by many other sources, including Edgar Casey's material, Indian folklore, and the Book of Revelations of our Holy Bible.
The Earth's crust has a much more carefully precise name which this instrument does not know. But part of it is unstable at this time, and there are shifts which are possible in this region as well as in many others. Shifts that usually happen along what you call fault lines, but which can happen easily in areas where there are extensive underground openings, such as is true in your area. It simply means that there could be a geographical rearrangement of your terrain, which would involve a rearrangement of the molecules of many houses and people. It would be called a great disaster were it to happen. The reason that it is happening is centuries and centuries old, and begins 1,000 years before the birth of the Master that signifies this period or cycle of your development. We speak of the one known as Jesus. In this time...
Whoa, that's, I think, the first time I've heard Jesus referenced in that way. Let me go back here. What you call fault lines.
Which can happen easily in areas.
And just going on about that for a minute. Such as true in your area. Simply means there could be a geographical rearrangement of your terrain, which would involve a rearrangement of the molecules of many houses and people. How strange. It would be called a great disaster for it to happen. The reason that it is happening is centuries and centuries old, and begins 1,000 years before the birth of Christ. The Master, they call him, that signifies this period or cycle of your development. Whoa. Okay, what else you got for us, Mr. E.T. or Miss E.T.?
This period or cycle of your development. We speak of the one known as Jesus. In this time, many came into being from a previous cycle who had much karma to alleviate due to improper actions involving the use of power over other people. They were given 3,000 years in order to learn the lessons of love. When 1,000 years had passed, and the theory that there was one Creator had barely begun to batter down the resistance of those who were not ready for the unity of all that there is. The Master incarnated and gave to the peoples of this planet that which is the truth to be learned. It has been reported badly in your holy works that there are enough of his words in those books in order for you to be able to understand the lessons of love, forgiveness, and redemption, which he encouraged his disciples to learn. However, your peoples have repeatedly used this very name not to love, but to fight. Not to be peaceable, but to make war. The tensions, the disagreements, the dishonesty, the habitual lying between peoples has long involved nations, provinces, towns, communities. All levels of your society have been eaten by something which we would call a cancer, and that is the cancer of separation. Not knowing that all beings are one, and that what is done to another is done to oneself. We do those things which involve the concept of two beings. That involves the concept of an enemy or a competitor. That involves the concept of a wall between. This limits communication, increases polarity and hostility, and eventually these vibrations sink into the planet itself. That which is most sensitive to these vibrations, the crust or the mantle of the earth, begin to move and restlessly realign themselves, attempting to relieve the tensions of the planetary consciousness. Thus, yes, your people have caused these things over thousands of years. It is not unheard of for this to happen.
That's pretty wild to think about, right? That the disagreements, the fights, the arguments, the war, the competitiveness, the cutthroat business practices. I mean, so much negative out there in this world. Could that collective consciousness of negativeness have to find some kind of outlet? Right? It's very interesting to think about. I think especially now because we see that science doesn't have an explanation for everything. In fact, a lot of what science is just predictions, and then, theorizing, hypothesizing, and then proving that out. And we're finding that even things that we thought were proven out before are being remodeled and changed. And so what we thought was, the standard 2 + 2 is 4 answer has now morphed into something more complicated, more confusion. Very interesting. Now, the gentleman that is a big part of this research here, he recently passed away, Andrea Purak, and he does have a website where a lot of the stuff is available. And as I was saying, the bit that we listened to was just one small snippet of loads and loads and loads of tapes on this guy's site for free. So if you're like me, you needed a break from the Epstein files to research something a little more interesting, there's a lot of good stuff in there. I highly, highly recommend it. So Barack Obama says aliens are real, but then quickly backs off. Dan Friedman might have one of the craziest stories that nobody's talking about right now. That a Bush aide approached him when he was 18, a close family friend, and told him that aliens were real and that we had craft and aliens. We talked a little about this 9 Council and what that meant. We talked about Master's new UFO class, and that while that's going on, our friend of the show, Eric Mitchell's YouTube channel has literally been erased with no explanation. We still can't figure it out. Interesting stuff, strange stuff, very strange stuff. But we're going to keep an eye on things. We're keep a tab on things. I want to thank y'all for hanging out with me tonight. It's been awesome as usual. And we will see you next time on the Gabriel Speaks podcast.